Oh, Canada. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm a very happy John Campea. Good to have you guys joining me here. Over here, we got Ray Ora.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Over here, we got Jonathan Voico.
Phillies? I don't know.
And around the world, Canadians celebrate and enjoy as we once again assert our dominance over God's game, hockey. Good to have you guys here, and here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or topic you'd like me to address, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. As long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, we'll address it in the second part of the show. And by the way, this tip link is actually good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're listening to our show on a podcast feed, either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching this show a little bit later in the day, you can still send in a question. If you send one in when we're not live, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys. Again, woo! Watching that game last night, boy. What a game. You know, I was joking yesterday that the U.S. has been riding Canada's coattails in the world of hockey for about 50 years. Hey, we're still the dominant force. But if this tournament taught us anything, it's the U.S. is totally caught up. I mean, what a tournament they played. What a game they played.
That was a crazy game.
It was a crazy game. I tell you what, man, the American team has gotten so good, and I cannot wait for the Olympics next year.
Meanwhile, Finland's like, what about us?
Well, I mean, you should have played better, Finland. And Sweden.
Caught up to a point like what Japan is with baseball, like
I
caught up that
don't
much?
really know the international baseball scene.
Okay.
All I know is Connor McJesus, Connor McDavid, greatest hockey player in the world, captained by Sid the Kid. Right on, guys. Anyway, we're not here to talk about hockey, although we should be. We're here to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, all sorts of good stuff. So let's not waste any time and jump into it, shall we? We're going to start off with this. You know, in the realm of comic book movies, sometimes a movie gets announced. It sounds like it's a little bit out of left field. Such was the case with Sergeant Rock. Now, there's been talk for years of DC trying to get a Sergeant Rock going. I think at one point, Bruce Willis was lined up to play Sergeant Rock.
Yes.
Then at another point, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger
Yep, Schwarzenegger.
was lined up to play Sergeant Rock. Never happened. And then last year, we found out that James Bond himself, Daniel Craig, had signed up to be Sergeant Rock. Well, apparently, according to the reports, that ain't happening anymore. This coming to us from the Hollywood Reporter says Daniel Craig drops out of DC Studios' war movie Sergeant Rock. Writes the following. Daniel Craig's DC Comics debut will have to wait. The actor is no longer attached to star in Sergeant Rock, the DC Studios feature project that would have reunited him with his queer director Luca I always mispronounce this. Guadagnino. The feature has a script from screenwriter Justin Kurtzix, who penned his Challengers and Queer movie, because he also directed Challengers. So he's out. I don't think this is going to be one that catches a lot of people by surprise. I think when they announced Daniel Craig was going to be this, I like it just because he's such a good actor. To me, number one, get a great, talented actor. Daniel Craig is an Academy level kind of actor. He's amazing. But a lot of people were like, we love Daniel Craig. That seems like an odd choice, though, to play Sergeant Rock.
Right.
Not to mention he's 56 years old, which is like not 66, but, he's starting to get up there a little bit. I mean, look, even his recent films, take James Bond out of it. All right. Take that out of it. His Knives Out movies, so good. You know what one of the most underrated ones he's ever done? Logan Lucky.
I love Logan Lucky.
I love that movie. And he is so good in Logan Lucky. Yeah. And you know what? Everybody gets mad at me when I say this. I don't care. It's often lonely being right. His version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was better than the original version.
Ooh.
Not by a lot, not by much. But I loved his version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I'm really sad they never made more.
That was Fincher, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And the dude is just amazing. So I think it would have been great had he played the role. But I agree with a lot of people that it was a unique choice. And him now stepping out, not a big... Now, this brings up the question about what does this mean about the future of the project? Maybe the project itself may not happen. And I don't know. We'll have to see what goes on with that. I always thought doing a Sergeant Rock movie in and of itself was an interesting choice.
This character wasn't a part of Creature Commandos, was he?
Was he not referenced in the GI Robot backstory?
That's the only place I can think of that had a connection was a GI Robot.
I thought maybe he was. I you know what? I can't remember, but I think Luis in the live chat is saying he was. Yeah, I thought he was referenced in that, but he wasn't featured.
Yeah. So do you think this has anything to do with how that show turned out? If like people watched it or not?
Nothing.
I mean, nothing at all.
The animated show?
Yeah. I'm just saying.
A live action movie with a character who appeared in it for 5 seconds. Nah, nothing like that.
All right.
I think it might have something to do with the project. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Daniel Craig, the former James Bond, is no longer going to be Sergeant Rock. I don't think that's going to surprise a lot of people. Do you think this means they're recasting? Or do you think maybe they're just going to put the project itself on the shelf for a while? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? You know, I'm not a big fan of Black Panther 2. I mean, I don't think it was bad. I don't think Black Panther 2 was bad, but it was nowhere near the greatness of the original. But, you know, one of the things that was great, like great, capital G great, that you can't dispute, was how good Angela Bassett was in that movie. So good, she got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. On some people's scorecards, she was even considered the favorite. And then she didn't win. It went to Jamie Lee Curtis, who was also completely stunning in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But now Angela Bassett is saying that, and this is coming just from Variety, I was deserving of the Oscar for Black Panther 2. After I put in the time and good work, I thought it was a given. Anyway, Variety writes the following. Angela Bassett recently told Town & Country magazine that she was deserving of the Best Supporting Actress Oscar for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Bassett was nominated in 2023, but lost to Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Her stoic reaction as Curtis's name was called went viral on social media, which I thought was dumb. Anyway, not that her reaction was dumb. I thought like people reacting to her looking disappointed. Oh, somebody just lost out on an Academy Award. They shouldn't look disappointed?
Yeah.
Like, I know everybody's supposed to go, oh, pretend they're happy for the other person. I know you're supposed to do that, but she didn't look mad. She just looked disappointed. I mean, I don't know what the problem was. Anyway, she said, I found it interesting, Bassett said of the loss and the reaction that ensued. Interesting that I wouldn't be allowed to be disappointed at an outcome that I thought I was deserving.
Right.
I love applauding people, she added. But in that moment, no, I've put in the time, put in the good work over time. I didn't think that was a gift. I thought it was a given. Now, there are, like I said, there are people out there who going into the Oscars kind of thought she was the front runner. But I do want to remind everybody that just prior to the Oscars was SAG. And SAG gave Best Supporting Actress to Jamie Lee Curtis. So it wasn't like it was some complete shock that Jamie Lee Curtis won the Academy Award. She did, in fact, just win the SAG Awards for it. And you know, Angela Bassett had won a couple of others. Some people might think I really don't like Angela Bassett's reaction, but I think everything about her reaction, and I think everything about her statement is perfectly appropriate. I personally have no problem that Jamie Lee Curtis won I thought she was so good in Everything Ever All at Once.
And it was great for her to get that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know what? Angela Bassett, had she won, I would have had zero issues with that. She was so good in that movie. I have no problem with somebody saying, I thought I deserved to win. I have no problem with that. You know where I start to get a problem? Is when you get like the director of the original Shogun, not just coming out, like if the director of the original Shogun just came out and said, you know, I really think our Shogun deserves more attention. I thought we did really great stuff on that Shogun. I've got no problem with that. Where I have a problem with is when then the director of the original Shogun starts trashing the new Shogun. Nobody finds it entertaining. It only won because it didn't have any competition and blah, blah, blah. Like all this kind of crybaby bitch stuff.
Boy, there was a lot of competition. I'm sorry.
And there was especially when you go down all the categories, there was massive competition. But did Angela Bassett come out and trash Jamie Lee Curtis?
Nope.
No. You know why? Because Angela Bassett has class. So I have no issue with somebody coming out and saying, I really thought I was going to win. I thought I was going to get my Oscar. I thought I put in the work. Jamie Lee Curtis put in the work too.
Yeah, she didn't say no one else worked. I worked.
Yep. She didn't say Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't all that good in that movie. She didn't say, oh, and who was the third? There was a third who won like the Golden Globe or
Well, I have to look that up.
the Banshees. It was the one for the Banshees.
Yes. The
What's her
Banshees of
name?
Inisherin actress. Yes, so she was in the running too. She put in the work, right? Nobody's saying she just came out and said, I thought I deserved it. And you know what? If you don't think you deserved it, why should anybody else think you deserved it? As long as she doesn't cross that line into saying that person didn't deserve it, or that person wasn't, that's who it was. Thank you. Or that person wasn't that good. And she didn't. All she said was, I really thought I had it. I thought I did well enough to win. And you know what? She did do well enough to win, but that's what makes the Oscars so difficult. Is that just because you do enough to deserve to win doesn't mean you're going to win, because somebody else might have done enough to deserve to win too, and it makes it really hard.
It's like the Golden State Warriors when they had that 72 win season.
Yeah,
LeBron beat him. It's like what was it all for? Like, I bet you out of all their losses, probably that one's the one that hurts Steph Curry probably the most.
Oh, in the finals? Yeah, of course that's the one.
No, just because they beat the best record. They had the best record ever in the history of the league, and they came up short.
I mean, look, and people today can still think. I personally, I think both of them deserve to win. I would have had no qualms if Angela Bassett had won. I certainly am fully supportive that Jamie Lee Curtis won. Either one of them could have won. It was great. Some awards went to Bassett, some awards went to Curtis. When it came down to the Oscars, they leaned towards Curtis.
Right.
And great. And so I'm not surprised to hear her comments, and I think they're perfectly classy.
Yeah.
I think they're perfectly classy.
Yeah. If you just take the headline, it's like, oh, well, she seems like she's really miffed, and it seems like she's like not, it's like, I deserved it. It's like, no. When you actually take the bits out of the headline and put it in context, she's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
She's
nothing wrong with
reasonable.
saying you deserved it.
Yeah.
Provided you don't start going off about why somebody else didn't.
And you know what? I bet she's gonna give us a greater performance than she did. Like that's how you separate the.
Well, it's not even her first nomination,
No,
right?
I'm just
This
saying-
is the second time she was nominated for an Oscar. She's always going to be great.
Yeah.
Like this could like mentally like really defeat a lot of people. I think she's gonna give us way better.
And you know what? And the other thing for her is, like, hey, a lot of people lose out on the Oscars. Yeah. But a lot of times, most nominees know they're not actually going to win. Mm-hmm. Like when they list off the 5 names, minimum 3 of them know they're not winning.
Yeah, and it's usually down to 2.
She really thought that this was going to be her night.
I did too.
And,
she had momentum.
And it wasn't. And so when the camera went on her, she looked disappointed.
We also
Perfectly fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
We also don't know who was maybe in her ear that are like, oh, we're getting word, like good word that you're a shoe-in. So and then you start thinking like, okay, well, I'm getting word that, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Angela Bassett said she did enough work to deserve the Oscar. I agree. It's just that 1 or 2 other people did too. And I don't have any problems with her comments whatsoever. As long as she's not attacking other people and she's just claiming that she thought she did enough, I'm perfectly good with that. How do you guys feel about it? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? In the Snyderverse yesterday, a great disturbance was felt in the force. As if millions of voices cried out in terror, and they were suddenly silenced. As James Gunn got on his social media and posted a buddy-buddy picture with him and Zack Snyder. This is a new picture hanging out outside the writer's room of DC, where James Gunn wrote, "Always a pleasure catching up with my friend Zack Snyder, consummate filmmaker and doubly consummate storyteller." Now this got a lot of people. This basically blew up the internet. Like my feeds yesterday was just basically after we were finished the show, it was like basically all of this.
You know what? From now on, Snyder's no part of the Snyderverse.
That's right. Snyder betrayed the Snyderverse.
He's not a real Snyder.
Just like the way they turned on David Ayer.
Yeah.
You said you're supporting James Gunn? You suck. You're the enemy. So it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting. Anyway, this isn't the first time these two guys have hung out either. Take a look at this. Jonathan, you got this.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, look at those baby faces.
Look at those little guys.
Look at those baby faces. Oh my God, they were just kids. Now look at them again back with today's picture.
They're just babies.
We've seen some wars.
This is what fandom does to you.
This is what toxic fandom from every corner of toxic fandom. This is what fandom will do to you.
They have pictures of presidents before they become the president, and they look fairly like vigorous typically, and then at the end of their 4 or 8 year term, they're just like
they're
haggard.
just like a little more haggard and stuff like that. Anyway, you know it, but this picture coming out shouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, like, Zack Snyder has been verbally supportive of James Gunn's new DCU. James Gunn has talked at length about the great job Snyder did with Superman, stuff like that. As a matter of fact, James Gunn even talked about the fact when he was mulling over the bad decision to put the red underwear on Superman, he says one of the first guys he consulted with was Zack Snyder. He said he wanted Zack Snyder's thoughts on it. And I love you, James, but the red underwear, still a mistake. Anyway, that being said, so it brings up the question of a lot of people are asking, why? For why, as Chris Carr would say. Why did they put, and what does this picture mean? To the one hyper extreme, there are people now out there saying, and I get why they would feel this way. It's official. It's not official. James Gunn is going to have Zack Snyder direct a film in the DCU.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead. Just don't write it.
To which I would say, I would be all for it. I think I am a Zack Snyder. Again, take the Rebel Moon garbage out of it. And there's only ever been one Zack Snyder film I didn't like, and that was Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
Other than that, I liked everything he did in the DCU. I like every one of his other movies. I think he's a tremendously gifted visual storytelling, but he does struggle with story. And you pair up a James Gunn shepherding the cinematic universe and working with some writers to come up with a solid script and then hand that script over to Zack Snyder and say, bring this to life. Manifest this visually. I think you could have something really special. I think you could have something really good. Do I think that's what this photo means? I don't. It could. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's not. I think it could. And if it did, I'm all for it. It'd be like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage teaming up to form the Superpowers. That's what they were called, right?
Yeah,
no, the Mega Powers.
The
Mega Powers.
Superpowers.
And they do and they form the Mega Powers, right? Yeah. That would be pretty cool.
And then they hate each other later.
And then they hate each other later and they fight over Miss Elizabeth. It's all terrible.
And these are all grown adults.
These are all grown.
Or why not? Let me just put there's a lot of people like Zack Snyder. What if they just get along? They're
creative.
Nice.
They've known each other for many years.
Can't it just be a hangout photo?
And that's the other thing. The other thing to me is, and I think this is the most likely. Remember we said on the one extreme, what could this picture mean? It's them kind of sneakily announcing to the world that Zack Snyder's going to come in and direct a film for James Gunn. I don't think that's what's happening. I think if we go to the other extreme, it's really more just a thing of, hey, fandom, let's all just celebrate what we love together. Like, all you anti-Zack Snyder people, everything Zack Snyder touches sucks. James Gunn is saying this is a really gifted filmmaker, and he is. To all the Snyder bros, it's like, this DC is going to suck. This is Zack Snyder saying, hey guys, we're excited about James Gunn's universe. I think more than anything else, this is just two very well-known filmmakers come together and say, hey guys, let's just all celebrate that we love comic book movies and let's all hope for the best together. Mm-hmm. So I think there's probably a lot of that to it. And the fact that Gunn and Snyder would pose for this picture, I think is incredibly smart. There's still a possibility it could mean more. I doubt it, but it could. James Gunn has a lot of movies he wants to make, and he's going to need filmmakers.
Hey, James Gunn has been a part of this social media thing for a while. Don't tell me like a little bit of himself knew what would happen if he posted this. Like he knew like the
of course he did. Him and Snyder both knew. They both knew what would happen to that. But
well done, gentlemen.
I'm going to throw this out there. You know, Batman Brave and the Bold, I've been saying might be looking for a new director. Because what's the Flash director's name again? I keep freezing. Andy Muschietti. Yeah. You know, Andy Muschietti and James Gunn clearly haven't been on the same page. I mean, he will probably still end up directing Batman Brave and the Bold. But I'm just saying, I've been theorizing that maybe they might be needing a new director for that. I don't know, maybe Zack Snyder can come in
I
here.
loved it. So
what a weird move to like actually when it's like you're scrolling and you see your girlfriend with another person like in a picture.
You scroll like past it, you know, a double take, you gotta go back.
Before even breaking up with you. It's like
before even breaking up with you.
This is what you get, Andy.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this I think the pick's great, and whether it meant something, which I don't think it does, or isn't anything more than, hey, look, everybody, all us comic book movie fans can just be happy together. I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got a few other things we need to talk about here, including The Gorge has just become the biggest debut movie ever for Apple TV+. We're going to talk about that. And remember that trainer picture where the trainer said, I'm training Charlie Cox to be in an upcoming Avengers movie? Charlie Cox is saying, no, I'm not. Anyway, we're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode, our friends at Indeed. We want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's episode, Indeed. Okay, so you just realized your business needed to hire somebody like yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for the right candidates so you can reach the best talent faster. And it works. Indeed's data shows that sponsored jobs get 45% more application than non-sponsored jobs. The thing I'm impressed most with Indeed is how fast it makes hiring. When I was looking to hire somebody for the John Campea Show, the process felt slow and overwhelming. I hate it. I wish I had used Indeed. And you want to know how fast Indeed is? In just the minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed worldwide. So don't wait. Speed up your hiring now with Indeed. And for listeners of this show, you get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Campea. Just go to Indeed.com/Campea and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed here. That's Indeed.com/Campea. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. And thank you to our friends at Indeed for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, when they first dropped the trailer for that movie, The Gorge, with Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy, by the way, I think I've now decided Anya Taylor-Joy is the sexiest woman in Hollywood. I now, it switched sometimes. I still think the sexiest man in Hollywood is Javier Bardem. I've met Javier Bardem. I've stood next to Javier Bardem. I've never felt more inadequate in my life.
He's got that like old Hollywood classic. Like
that dude's got it all, man. Like he's got charm and suave and charisma and the just natural rugged good looks and all that kind of stuff. But I now actually think that the sexiest woman is Anya Taylor-Joy. And that really came home in watching The Gorge. But when they first dropped the trailer for that, I kind of thought it was really strange that this movie wasn't going to theaters. This felt like a theatrical film. And after watching it, I still believe it should have been a theatrical film. And I thought it was quite good. I've read some mixed reactions to it. Honestly, I mean, it's all subjective, but I don't really see the complaints. I mean, was it the movie of the year? Absolutely not. But I thought it was pretty damn solid. And I love the chemistry between Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. I thought they were really good in this. Somebody in the live show said, Thomas Bombadil is saying she is gorgeous.
Oh, boy.
He is
Why?
Gorge.
Yeah, it's about her. Gorge, darling, gorge.
Anyway, well, it turned out that this was a pretty popular play for Apple TV Plus. Deadline is now reporting that Apple's Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy star The Gorge has become the streamer's biggest movie launch ever. They said the following: Apple Original Films, The Gorge, has become the biggest film launch in the young streamer's history. The Scott Derrickson, directed, by the way, I love Scott Derrickson, did the original Doctor Strange movie. He did The Black Phone. He's fantastic. The Scott Derrickson directed thriller from Skydance stars Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy as rival guardians on the watchtower overseeing a mysterious gorge below. It becomes a long-distance relationship that leads to the inevitable plunge below to discover the truth about creatures dwelling there. It's one of the sharper direct-to-streaming films I've seen in a good long time. The Gorge eclipses numbers turned in by the John Watts-directed George Clooney-Brad Pitt film Wolves, which was also really good. I like that movie a lot, which launched last fall, pivoting from a planned wide release to a small theatrical and global streaming release. Another mistake by Apple. That's another one I thought should have been given a theatrical release.
I think they're still reeling from that Napoleon movie.
Yeah, they're still shook.
Yeah, and listen, but like, no joke, I think they're still shell-shocked by the massive flop that Napoleon was.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Wolves was a winner. Was
Yeah.
it going to be a $500 million film?
No.
No. But I think it could have done well.
Yeah.
And this is another one. I think this should have been theatrical. You know, as weird as it is, as much visual effects as there are and everything, it's actually a small film. Gorge is a pretty small film. 90% of the movie is just two characters. But I enjoyed it. But you put out a thing like this, something that looks like a Hollywood blockbuster and should be in theaters. And Miles Teller has been great for a long time, but obviously Top Gun Maverick certainly gave a big boost to his profile and stuff like. And Anya Taylor-Joy, I've said Hollywood kind of belongs to her and Florence Pugh right now. It sort of feels like, and their chemistry on screen was fantastic.
Great.
And they've got a winner on their hands. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I haven't seen Wolves yet or The Gorge. So actually, I think I'm going to do a double feature.
It's a good one.
watch
That
them
would
both.
that would be a good. You don't even have to change the channel.
No.
Don't even have to change the channel.
Nope.
No. Now I had a question because sometimes this does affect me personally. When a film is launched at home and you get the comfort of watching it at home, of the convenience, does it sway your? Do you judge it a little bit differently? Because I know Red One was great. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was, but if I went to the theaters, I wouldn't. I don't know if I would judge it.
I have the opposite thing of you.
Oh, okay.
I tend to enjoy film more in a theater.
Oh yeah.
So do I.
We know that, but it's like, but as in watching and the.
I think if that were true, then I wouldn't consider 99% of Netflix original movies to be garbage.
True.
Right? I think if I gave them more of a pass, and by the way, I did watch Red One. That was not a good movie, man. But you loved it.
I had a good time.
You know, and I've heard from others who had a good time with it. I did not think it was very good.
It was just so dumb that sometimes you just have to.
Yeah, but I think if anything else, my natural starting point is when a movie is on straight to home streaming. It's this movie wasn't good enough to be in theaters.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry.
Okay, I get it.
And I'm sorry, everybody, but that fair or unfair, that's my starting thing.
That makes sense.
So this is a movie they didn't consider good enough to be in theaters.
That makes sense.
So I was pleasantly surprised by The Gorge. I thought it was quite good. And listen, if Apple TV Plus, because now they put out Wolves and they put out The Gorge, both of which should have been in theaters and then put on Apple TV Plus, but still, man, they're killing it with their shows right now.
I know.
And if they can start consistently putting out, and listen, I didn't like Napoleon, but Apple swung for the fences with that movie.
That wasn't Apple's fault though. They produced it like
they got behind it and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, as the studio, you could recognize when something has the potential to be a winner or not.
Yeah.
But they swung for the fences.
They're still
and I
babies.
respect that.
There's still babies in this game.
Yeah. But I'm telling you what, man, I was very critical of Apple TV Plus when they first came out and announced that they were going to be a thing. And they had that big press day where they brought all the stars out on the stage. And I said, this looks like a loser. And I got to tell you, man, it did. It totally to me looked like this Apple TV thing was going to be a big loser. But I'll tell you, man, they have 100% won me over. And this Gorge thing, and I'm happy for them that they got this, that they're having this kind of success with it. Still would have made them more money if they put it in theaters first, but still, it's another winner for them, and they're doing great. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Have you seen The Gorge? If so, what did you think about it? And are you surprised to hear that it's now surpassed Wolves, the George Clooney, Brad Pitt film, to be the biggest launch that Apple's ever had with one of their original films? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down, let's get on to this, shall we? Some of you might remember that a couple of weeks ago, we did a story on the channel here where Charlie Cox's trainer, Charlie Cox, of course, who plays Daredevil, Matt Murdock. Going to see him in about a week and a half, 2 weeks here on Disney Plus with the new Daredevil Born Again. But his trainer put up a post on his social media, not Charlie Cox's social media, his trainer's social media. And this is the picture. The trainer said, "Oh, it's fun. I'm training Charlie Cox for an upcoming Avengers movie."
He's never been seen since. It's really weird.
Has not been seen or heard from since. But no, so a lot of people, including us, I'm sure, including a lot of you, is like, uh-oh, whoopsie. Did this guy just accidentally let it slip that we're going to see Matt Murdock, Daredevil, in Avengers film? Well, Charlie Cox has now come out and said, not only is that not true, but he's not going to be in the Avengers films, at least as far as he knows. Deadline wrote the following: Charlie Cox addresses rumors Daredevil is in the next Avengers movie. Charlie Cox is reprising his Marvel Comics character for Disney Plus Daredevil Born Again. At the end of 2024, Cox posed for a photo, the one that Jonathan just had up, with the gym owners of the establishment he was training at for the physically demanding role. The owners captioned an Instagram post saying Cox was there, quote unquote, training for his role in the upcoming Avengers movie. With Avengers Doomsday being in production, many took this as confirmation Daredevil would make a cameo in the Marvel film, set to be released in 2026. The gym owners edited the caption after the post went viral, and Cox is now clearing up the confusion. He said this: "I was there for Christmas with my family, and on the last day, they asked if they could take a picture with me, which we did," because that was Cox and his wife. Cox told Entertainment Weekly, "I had said to them, I'm getting ready to play Daredevil, because I am. I'm getting ready to play Daredevil in season 2 of Daredevil Born Again." Remember, they're going into production on that really soon. They're already doing the pre-production on it.
Right. He
added, "Sometimes people who aren't really in the entertainment world, they don't understand the terminology or whatever, but for some reason they posted that they put getting ready for his role in the Avengers, which is not true." Cox said he, quote unquote, felt terrible for the confusion and called his bosses to tell them he didn't say that, adding, "Why would I say that? Why would I make something like that up? But I don't think they made it up. I think they just got confused. What it is, I don't know." As far as the future of Daredevil in the MCU, Cox told the publication he only knows he will be reprising his role in season 2 of the Disney Plus series. "I have no knowledge of any other commitments at all," he said, adding, "It definitely feels like Matt Murdock is in that Marvel world more, but it would be cool for that journey to continue." All right. Man, what a mess. And we knew it was going to be a mess as soon as that trainer posted that thing.
Yeah, we
Right?
gave it like a small percentage where we're like, maybe they gave him the go-ahead.
Yeah,
But-
maybe they said, "Hey, this is a sneaky way to announce to the world that Daredevil is going to be the Avengers." No, apparently not. So Charlie Cox, he comes out and says, number one, it's not true. He says, "I did not tell him that. I was training for Daredevil season 2, which goes into production here, like in the next couple of weeks. And that I have absolutely no commitments to Daredevil after season 2 of Daredevil right now." He says it's not true. He said he called his own Marvel bosses and says, "I didn't tell him
Please,
that. I did not make this up. Why would I make this up? Like, why would I make up that I was going to be in the Avengers?" All right.
He didn't want to get tossed over the boat.
Now, of course, we live in the Andrew Garfield world, where Andrew Garfield denied for a long time that he was going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home, and of course he was. But as quick as we are to point that out all the time, We should also point out that 9 times out of 10, when an actor says they're not in something, they're not in something. That's just the truth. That's the fact.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, when actors say they're not in something, turns out they're not. And it's probably more than 9 times out of 10. It's probably like 79 times out of 80. When an actor straight up says, I'm not in something, yes, there was the 1 or 2 times when it turned out an actor was lying. But the vast majority of the time, when an actor says they're not in something, turns out they're not. What's the situation here? Here's my guess. I don't think Daredevil will be in Doomsday. But I still think he could be in Secret Wars and he himself still not know about it. I actually think that's very feasible. That they may have plans for Daredevil in Secret Wars, but I also think it's very feasible at this point they may not have even told Charlie Cox about that yet. So I kind of believe it that he's not going to be in Doomsday because I think there's going to be overlap going on because they're going into production on Doomsday in the next couple of months and they're going into production on Daredevil season 2 in the next number of weeks, early couple of months. So I think it actually kind of becomes believable that he's not in Doomsday, but then Secret Wars becomes another issue.
He'll die if he's in Doomsday.
Think so?
Hey, what's up, Dr. Doom?
Yeah, squash. Yeah, you're not gonna have Daredevil fighting Doctor Doom. That's not a fight that would go well.
Oh,
in
you
the
don't put him
MCU.
toe to toe, but he fights all the Doombots.
Or what
Yeah,
if
maybe fight some Doombots.
what if he's his lawyer, Dr. Doom's lawyer, and it's
Oh
just
my God,
a legal
I'm
battle,
representing a guy from Latveria.
a legal battle film.
A legal Doomsday's just a big court.
Remember,
Just a big court movie. It's Matt Murdock defending Doctor
Yeah.
Doom against the lawyers for the Avengers, and it's just a big legal battle.
right? Remember Robert Downey Jr.'s The Judge or whatever movie?
It's a crossover.
That's why he came back. He's like, oh, you're gonna make me a villain, and
And
In
I
the
want it to be a
courtroom?
legal drama.
Dun dun.
So listen,
two-parter.
do the actors lie sometimes? Absolutely they do. I kind of believe him here.
Yeah, because
I
wasn't
kind
that
of believe him.
wasn't that trainer also at the time training Benedict Cumberbatch? And Benedict was in
I'm not
training
familiar
for
with that at
Avengers.
all. I'm not
I thought it was the same trainer as another.
Hard to say.
Well, Benedict Cumberbatch
Oh, wait.
recently said he's not in
Oh,
Secret
okay.
Wars. He says he's going to be in. Sorry, let me rephrase.
Sorry.
Benedict Cumberbatch recently said he's not going to be in Doomsday, but that he will have a prominent role to play in Secret Wars.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I don't know about that. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about it? He said, listen, I just told the trainer I was training to play Daredevil, and he just interpreted that I'm training him for an upcoming Avengers movie. I'm not. He says, I'm not. Could he be lying? He could be. He could be. And call me naive, but 9 times out of 10, when an actor says they're not in something, it turns out that they weren't. So I'm going to kind of be inclined to believe him right now. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're now going to get on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. If you guys have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or topic, go ahead and fire it on in now to our tip link, and we'll address it here on the show as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show. But for now, we're going to take a quick second to thank another sponsor of today's episode, our friends at Birddogs. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Birddogs. You know what I hate? Dress pants. They're stiff, they're uncomfortable, and they always feel like they're fighting against me. But then I found Birddogs, and let me tell you, it's been a total game changer. These pants fit like a dream, giving you all the comfort of gym wear while still looking sharp enough for work or a night out. I wear my Birddogs everywhere, lounging at home, running errands, or even a night out at the game. The fit? Spot on. You get to pick your exact waist and length, so no awkward bagginess or tight spots. And unlike other high-end brands like Lululemon or Vuori, Birddogs skip that shiny, weird-looking material, just straight up premium comfort. And let's talk for a second about their classic quarter zip, probably my favorite thing they make. I threw it on the other day for a casual dinner and it looked sharp, but I was comfortable as if I was wearing pajamas. It's that good. For limited time, our listeners get a free hat with every order when you use the code John Campea at birddogs.com. Get their best-selling hat completely free when you use the code John Campea at birddogs.com. Support our show and let them know we sent you. And thank you to our friends at Birddogs for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to the important stuff. Your live comments and questions. Jonathan, what we got up first?
Preston Walden says, "Hey, John, I was wondering if you think Marvel will ever pay off the Sharon Carter scene in the last Falcon and Winter Soldier. If so, do you think it could be in either Thunderbolts or Doomsday, or just dismiss it?"
I think that was 100% meant to be a setup for Armor Wars. And I don't know if Armor Wars is still happening. It was going to be a series, and they changed direction, says now we're going to make it a movie, but it's been on the back burner ever since. I don't think it's an important enough thing that you force it into something else, right? It was meant as a setup for Armor Wars. I don't think you need to come back and revisit it. It's just not. Plus, don't forget, most people haven't seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it's not an important thing. It's an important thing for Armor Wars, but I don't think it's an important thing for the MCU as a whole. So if it's going to be addressed, it'll be addressed if and when they ever get around to doing Armor Wars. Otherwise, they'll probably just let it go. And just as well, you don't need to tie that up. All right, what's next?
We got, Preston Walden also says, "Have you seen the trailer for Bring Her Back from the directors of Talk to Me? Looks creepy and bananas. Speaking of horror, can't wait to see the monkey this weekend."
That trailer, I mean, not surprisingly, it's an A24 film.
Right.
And what's the name of the actress who was playing Paddington's mom?
Oh, yeah.
And she,
Sally Hawkins.
Yeah, thank you, Sally Hawkins. It does look creepy, but it looks very A24. I'm going to be honest with you guys. A24 is not good at making trailers. Their trailers don't, even for some of their best movies, their trailers do not elicit excitement from people to go and see them. Some movies they do get people out to see, but they need to do a better job. But still, it was creepy. I'm going to watch this as soon as I can because I think it looks pretty good. All right, what's next?
All right. Just a tip says, "I'm a big Howard Stern fan. Haven't missed a show of his in years. I also really love his biopic Private Parts. He was really funny in that movie as himself, and he basically put Paul Giamatti on the map. Have you seen it?"
Private Parts?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that movie's like 20,
It's getting up
25
there.
years old,
Getting
30
up
years
there.
old.
Yeah.
When did that movie come
I'm
out?
looking it up.
You know, it's actually one of the really sad
97.
97. So it's like 25, 28 years ago. Dear heavens. Yeah. One of the, actually, I get a little sad when I think about that movie because one of the big things of that movie was that despite the fact of being seen as this like pompous shock jock and womanizer and all that kind of stuff, right? That was the image of
Right.
the persona of his, right? That despite all that, he had a great marriage. He and his wife loved each other and they were a solid marriage. Not too many years after that, him and his wife divorced. And so I always get sad thinking about that movie because the whole point of the movie is that him and his wife and their marriage is so great and so strong. And then knowing that after that, and listen, that happens, it happens, but it just makes me sad because there was such a great relationship in that movie. And it makes me sad that they eventually got divorced. Anyway. All right, what's next?
McLovin, "I completely agree with you that Sam shouldn't be the leader of the Avengers, but I think it's highly likely that Marvel will still make him the leader. Again, not what I think is right choice, but I'm 99% sure they will end up having him lead them."
I disagree. And I think if they were having any thoughts of that, I think the results of Captain America Brave New World are probably going to make them course correct a little bit. I mean, look, again, I just don't think there's not, I mean, to quote Thunderbolt Ross, "You're not Steve Rogers." And to be fair to Sam Wilson, the character, ain't nobody, Bucky ain't Steve Rogers. Nobody else is Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers is Steve Rogers, and that's it. Bucky couldn't have been Captain America and all that kind of stuff. Bucky could not have been the leader of the Avengers, and I just don't think Sam could be either. So if that was a part of it, again, I'm not saying I know this is fact. This is just me as a fan speculating. Could be right, could be wrong. But I don't think they are going to have him be the leader of the Avengers because he's been literally, guys, he's literally been a sidekick in the Avengers this whole time. I just don't see them making him the leader. Now, if this movie had been awesome and everybody loved it and it had huge responses, maybe that would nudge them a little bit further down that road, but I don't think they will. But again, it could be wrong, just a guess, but that's kind of what I think. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Smoke Master says James Bond films have always been at their best when they were close to the source material. Dr. No, Goldfinger, from Russia from Love. Set the new films or show in the 50s or 60s. Get back to the source material. That's significantly more grounded.
I completely disagree with you. I think you're creating a false equivalency. For instance, they took a lot of liberties with the new Casino Royale. They took a lot of liberties with Skyfall. And I think, I'm not saying some of those movies you mentioned weren't great, but you're creating a false equivalency. They were great because of that. And I think there are just too many other Bond films that prove that that's not the case. I think listen, James Bond films has always been contemporary films, contemporary to the era that they came out. Mm-hmm. So you're actually continuing the tradition you're not breaking with tradition of James Bond. You're continuing with the tradition of James Bond by making James Bond movies contemporary to when they come out. That's the way James Bond has always done it. They didn't make a James Bond film in the 60s that was set in the 1920s, right? They never did that. So unless I'm forgetting something.
No.
Anyway.
And Roger Moore was very 70s.
Yes, Roger Moore. The suavest of James Bonds, Roger Moore. Again, I just think you're creating a false equivalency, and I don't think one has anything to do with the other. But again, that's just my take on it. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says TV series should be saved for Bond spin-off characters. Really want a Felix Leiter TV spin-off. Casting will be important.
I could see a Felix series.
That could be cool.
I could also I agree with you 100%. I think you save James Bond for the movies, and then you could do shared cinematic universe spin-off films of like 0012 or 005 or Moneypenny or, something like that.
006, but this time Sean Bean lives.
Yes, Sean Bean lives this time. or even like an M origin story. Mm-hmm. Or a Q solo adventure where he's got to kind of MacGyver it. He's like the whole movie's just Q coming up with weird inventions to get himself out of tough spots. So again, I agree. I think James Bond should be saved exclusively for premium movies. Maybe have him making a cameo here or there in some of the but then save television shows for an extended universe kind of thing.
And that will only help the movies too.
I agree. 100% if you do them well.
Yeah, if you do them well.
If you make them crappy, it'll hurt the movies.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Twilight boy.
Twilight.
Dune Messiah will be released before the Batman Part 2. Ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
I don't know. I think he wanted it out.
I think he's just
I mean, it's not like we're talking about Blade.
Yeah. I mean, Dune Part 3 has been fairly scheduled for a while.
Yeah, I think you could come up now if you said a Blade movie will come out before the next Batman. That would make sense, but these are two fairly contemporary. Now, listen, again, I do think Matt Reeves, as great as Matt Reeves is, and I'm a huge Matt Reeves fan, and I love his Batman. One of the words on the street about Matt Reeves is that he takes his damn sweet time. He takes too long on things. That's the knock. And I'll take that as a knock over doesn't know how to tell a good story. I'd rather him take, and again, some people say, well, don't you want him to do it right? Yeah, but I think if he was more motivated, I think he can both do it right. It's not either or. It's not either have a Batman movie out within 3 years or have it be good. You can have a Batman movie out in 3 years and have it be awesome. I just think that's always been the one knock against him. All right, what's next?
Joseph from Hamilton.
Woo!
Oh, Canada. What a great game. To my American friends, no shame. That was a hell of an effort. Great hockey is great hockey, no matter who wins.
The best part about it, and I was watching a guy on ESPN talk about this. He said the best part about this Four Nations tournament was that it got people watching hockey who don't normally watch hockey. And that's what started the big boom with the UFC. It's when Forrest Whitaker and
Stephen Bonner.
Stephen Bonner. Thanks. Remember the American Psycho. Stephen Bonner had their fight.
Rest in peace.
That's the one that, like, people who did not watch mixed martial arts at that point, everybody said, you gotta watch this fight. And it's created a whole new slew of people who became fans of MMA. And I think this little tournament has done that for some people. And the hockey wouldn't have been as great as it was if it wasn't for Team USA. They played amazing. All right, what's next?
Sean Clegg says, "Hey, John and crew, just watched The Substance, and my gosh, what did I just watch? I really surprised that this got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. This isn't really the type of movie the Academy usually pays attention to."
The Academy pays attention to excellence. I mean, I remember back when, like, Lord of the Rings come out, the whole thing, the Academy doesn't nominate fantasy films.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they do. If you make one good enough, they will. The Academy doesn't nominate comic book films. Turns out, if you make one good enough, they actually will. And by the way, Dark Knight would have been nominated for Best Picture had the same rules today been around back then when they had 10 nominees. It absolutely would have been nominated for Best Picture. So I think it's just, you don't normally get a movie like this that also does such great character work and makes such great compelling scenes and have so much depth to it. You don't normally get that in these movies. And so when one comes along that does all those things, it's really not that surprising that the Academy paid attention to it. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Jake Galbo with a $20 tip and says,
Thank you, Jake.
"Hello again, good Canadian kid. Part of what made Brave New World bad for me was my Valentine bailed on me for someone else, and I found out on Instagram. So I had to watch it alone.
Oh, no.
Literally, my theater was empty. Why did this come out on Valentine's Day?"
Well, you know, I almost said the Groove. The Gorge also came out on Valentine's Day, which is kind of weird. I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks.
She wasn't it then. She just wasn't it.
I've never been. I don't think I've ever been stood up.
I have once. You know, I had a date set, and then she called me the end of the, like, near the midday, and she's like, "Oh, you know, last minute thing, my friend's coming from out of state. I got to cancel." I'm like, "Okay." So I had made plans then, secondary plans with like a group of friends that were going to go bar hopping that night. And she showed up with one of the guys that night.
Oh, no,
She didn't know I was like going to join that group, and I didn't know that she knew that group. It was an interesting night.
Brutal, man.
Talking about egg on your face.
Oh my God. I remember the most embarrassing thing. I think I've told this story before. This is when I was still living in Hamilton. I had my bachelor apartment, and I was dating a lot at the time, but girls showed up at my place and we're hanging out. And then because I was in an apartment, right? My buzzer goes off and it was another girl. I had double booked.
Oh no!
I had double booked. And I immediately I stepped into the bathroom, called my buddy who also lived in the building and asked him if he could go to the front door and meet the girl and tell her something. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You double booked?" I'm like, "I double booked." And he said, "No, I'm not going to do that." I mean, I feel for you, buddy, and I want to be there for you, but I'm not going to go do that. And so it's like, yeah, turns out John didn't end up having a great evening. So anyway, there's that. All right, what's next?
All right. Jake Galbo follows up with another $20 tip.
Thank you, man.
Also a good Canadian kid. I got an early copy of the final cut of James Gunn's Superman. Bring Ray and meet me to Death Peak at midnight so we can watch it.
Peak at midnight.
They want to watch it on
no,
Death
he's
Peak.
dead.
It's a great view.
I'll tell you what, I am currently in the heavy planning stages of trying to make arrangements for CinemaCon. And I still believe there is a chance that James Gunn is going to bring Superman to CinemaCon. I really do.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, we always get a number of full movies they show us well in advance.
Yeah.
Not usually as in advance as Superman, because it's still a good 2.5 months away from when CinemaCon comes out, right?
Yeah.
But I just have a feeling it's going to be. I have a feeling. I could be wrong. It probably am wrong. I'm just saying I got a feeling they're going to show Superman, and I will be so excited if they do. I'll be excited for whatever movie they bring, but I got a feeling it's going to be Superman. I absolutely believe, I 100% believe, I'm going to be shocked if we don't get a full screening of Thunderbolts.
Oh, yeah.
Because Marvel often brings full screenings. Not every time, but they often bring full screenings. And I feel very, very good that we're going to get a Thunderbolt screening. But anyway, we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Wade's Way. Starting when Thunderbolts releases, since we'll be out of the Chapek era and back into Iger Feige era, I hope we start seeing actual important and or exciting connective MCU post-credit scenes again. Sure, there were a few in the past, but I don't recall.
I don't really care. Like, post-credit scenes aren't important. They're just not. They're fun. I always stick around for them. They're fun.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, you don't really need a post-credit scene.
Yeah.
And so I just want good movies.
And they were great with Coulson when Coulson was there.
Yeah, the Phase 1 ones tied in leading up to the first Avengers. That was fine. But after that, there were a lot that were pointless.
Yeah.
They felt forced after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like it had nothing to do with
We
anything.
got to do
Yeah.
it, so let's do something.
So I'm the type of guy where I don't need, like, for instance, the Captain America 4 post-credit scene is just a waste. It's not fun and it's not important. I don't need it to be important and I don't need it to tie in. Like, you know what's one of the great post-credit scenes to me? Not top 5 best ever, but I mean, the post-credit scene in Thor Ragnarok when, what's
The Rock guy?
no,
Oh, no.
no, the guy from Jurassic Park. Why am I freezing on the actor's name?
Sam Neill?
No,
Or Jeff Goldblum?
Jeff Goldblum.
Oh,
Jeff
Grandmaster.
Goldblum gets out of his crashed ship and he goes, "Hey, everybody, we
Yeah,
did it!
right,
We did it! Great rebellion!" I don't know, like that. Was that important?
No, but it was
absolutely
funny.
not. But when Grandmaster comes out and starts doing, "Hey, we did it!" Like I laughed my ass off. Like it doesn't have to be important. It doesn't have to tie into anything, but make it fun. Make it fun and funny. Something that was worth kind of sticking around for. Like the post-credit scene on Deadpool and Wolverine.
Right.
Totally not important. But he says, "Let's go back and review the footage." And they show Chris Evans doing the whole spiel. Like, was that important? Absolutely not. But it was hilarious. I mean, it totally I just want Marvel, just make the post-credit scenes fun. Make them fun. That's all I need. If you can make them important, sure. But at least make them fun. If they're fun, I'm totally good.
And like some of them like really got you excited for the next film. Whatever was next on the
Yeah,
map.
some of them did.
Yeah, some of them did.
All right, what's next?
Spencer says, I'm a cinema manager in New Zealand. While we don't list exact times online, we strictly follow 20 minutes of ads trailers with just 10 minutes in IMAX. No more, no less. Customers know this and are happy knowing they can arrive late if they want to skip them. So you got to be consistent. If you're going to be consistent, that's cool. But
Yeah.
you've got to make that
and
a deal. Like there are 20 minutes. Of
20 minutes isn't as bad as what we have here. I still think it's a crime. And I still think you should actually advertise when the movie, you say showtime starts at 7, feature film begins at 7:20. I still think, other than that, you're just admitting you're trying to trick the audience. If you're saying, "No, we swear we're not trying to trick the audience," then advertise the actual start time. If you are really honestly not trying to trick the audience, then you should have no problem saying showtime, presentation begins at 7, movie begins at 7:20. Because if you go, "Well, no, we're not going to do that," then you are admitting you're trying to trick the audience. You just admitted it. And if you're not, then you should have no problem giving the actual start time. Again, I applaud that you're only doing 20 because that's better than 25, 35 that we get here. But you should still, if the audience is paying to come to your establishment for a movie, you owe it to those customers to tell them when the fuck that movie actually starts. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're admitting you're just trying to rip off and tease and deceive the audience. Anyway.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm starting to. I almost am okay with the Nicole Kidman because they have a shorter version now. I'm like, whatever. But like, why is it if I see IMAX, go to IMAX, or I go to Dolby Cinema, I have to see the interview with the director saying, when I shoot a film, I shoot it with Dolby Cinema in
Yeah.
mind.
I know,
Like,
that
why do I
drives
have to
me
do that? Just play
crazy.
the movie.
That
I
was
just did all
great
these
for
trailers.
That was great for CinemaCon when they premiered it. But
Yes.
now it's kind of like, come on.
Why do I need a
Yeah.
mini featurette on
That's
my
why we're
theater?
here.
It's like
That's
my
why we're
movie
here.
was supposed to start 22 minutes ago. Why are you now showing me an interview with the director talking about how great it is to shoot
Yeah.
in IMAX or to shoot in Dolby? Or just
When you
play
get-
me the goddamn movie.
You actually chose that format. You're in there already.
I
You
know,
what I
we
mean?
know it's good.
All right, what's next?
Mark Goman says, do you think we could see Chris Evans, Dave Bautista, Scarlett Johansson, or others MCU actors who appear in Secret Wars as new multiverse characters like RDJ as Doom? I have a strong feeling that could happen.
It could.
It could, but I
I
feel
mean,
like
there've
that's
already been reports out that Chris Evans is going to be appearing. I still think he's going to be Steve Rogers.
It would take the impact away from Doctor Doom. Just us being.
I was going to say
Yeah,
that exact
sorry.
thing. No, you're right on the money. I think if you start doing that with a bunch of other characters, it takes away from the impact of the impact that having Doctor Doom, having the face of what we recognize as Tony Stark, you take away from the impact that has if you just start doing it with a bunch of other characters too. So possible, yes. Likely, I don't think so, but we'll see. All right, what's next?
All right, we got a nice one here for Ray and Dogman. Hi team, a special hello to thanks to Ray. Hope all is good. I want to thank you for expressing your feelings about Dogman. Didn't know about the OG comics and had all kinds of prejudgments. I tried to get the gist from the trailers, but I wasn't convinced to see it. On Monday and Tuesday, you briefly mentioned how much you liked it. So last night I went. I would have never seen it otherwise. It was one of the most enjoyable times at the movies ever. I was ready to roll my eyes and cringe and maybe even walk out, but how delightfully wrong I was. So clever and funny with a couple of heart-tugging moments. I'm
Yeah.
so glad it accomplished that without being raunchy. Nothing against raunchy comedies, but sometimes they rely on it for cheap laughs. Dogman did it with smarts and charm. And to boot, it had the unexpected surprise being so good when I thought I wouldn't like it. Those are always the nicest things. Definitely worth a second viewing.
Me too.
I think all the gags and jokes will hold up. I can picture both John, Rob, and Chris cracking up at this. You all should go. Thanks again, Ray. And thanks, of course, to John and Jonathan Voico for all you do.
It's,
took the words right out of his mouth.
Look, you can practically see the justification
I just
flowing
think-
over Ray
I
right
just
now.
think- I look, okay. It's almost the way I felt about the bad guys in DreamWorks has this like real crazy thing of releasing these animated films
And they
that
look
are really
terrible.
good that no one watches. Yeah, that look terrible. The Bad Guys was good. I thought The Bad Guys was good, and this one is good. I mean, they got Shrek coming out later on. Give it a shot, especially if you like dogs or if you like cats. This cat in this movie is so likable as the villain.
It's what's his name from SNL, right? Who voiced it?
And also the captain, the captain of the police team. If anybody has any extra time, you have nothing to watch, you don't want to watch Brave New World
Pete
again,
Davidson was it?
go watch Dogman if it's still there. I mean, it's worth a shot.
So Pete Davidson does the voice of Petey the cat.
Yeah.
Isla Fisher does Sarah in it, and Stephen Root, who is my red stapler guy, was the voice of Grandpa. I will. First of all, just to let you know, I'm not going to be facetious. I'll let you know, I am never going to watch it.
Yeah. See, I know.
I've
you
no
guys
desire
thought-
to,
yeah.
but it's got an 80% Rotten Tomatoes score with an 83% audience score.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
Well, I will say
That's pretty good.
We're in a dead zone of releases right now until Mickey 17, so I probably will end up seeing it.
It's
All right,
good,
let's
yeah.
keep going on. What's next?
That's what A-list is for. Ghazi Q says, hi, John. Do you remember the movie Fear with Mark Wahlberg
Oh,
and
yes.
Reese Witherspoon? It was released on my first year studying college in the U.S. I loved that movie and watched it 3 times at the theater. For some reason, it's become a big part of my nostalgia. That's from the 90s, right?
It's like 30 years old.
Let me see. Fear. When did that
That
come out?
movie, like it was in the 90s,
Mark Wahlberg.
if I'm not mistaken. Like it was out of.
96. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I like that movie. I mean, it wasn't like super memorable and one that I'll revisit, and I haven't revisited. I think the last time I saw it,
I saw it back then. I
been
saw it
a long
96.
time ago, but I remember liking it. I remember having a good time with it.
I wonder
Yeah,
if it's dated now. I'd have to go back and rewatch that.
All right, what's next?
Ernie says, hey, y'all, taking a flight to Chicago for C2E2. Scared to fly with all these accidents going on.
Yeah.
Any words of encouragement? Also, Steve had a scene where he was drinking a lot in the first Avengers to prove he can't get drunk before he was capped. Does that count? Yeah, probably counts. I don't think he could because he metabolizes.
Yeah, he metabolized everything. I don't know what C2E2 is.
I don't either.
That's
but-
probably the Chicago Expo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like their
The
Comic
Chicago
Con.
what Expo? Oh, it's a Comic-Con. Okay. I would say this. First of all, you're talking to somebody who doesn't like flying at all. But that being said, here's the reality. There have been a couple of incidents lately. First of all, the one that just happened with the Delta airline, nobody died. Everybody survived. So
Yeah,
that's
it
good.
just flipped over.
They just hit the runway too hard and flipped over. I would say this is remember that literally every day, thousands of flights happen every day. So this week, 7,000 to 10,000 flights happened. And there might have been 1 out of 10,000 where something went wrong. So to quote Superman, to quote Christopher Reeve's Superman, statistically, it is still the safest way to travel. So yeah, you
Far
are
more
more
dangerous.
likely.
Yeah.
You're more likely to get, if you get on the train, you're more likely that train will get into an accident.
I was about to mention that. Where's he flying from? It's
don't know.
just to
Didn't
Chicago.
say.
Well, the event is called C2E2.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I thought you guys were saying X2. And it is a
It's a Comic-Con.
Comic
Okay.
Con.
All right. What's next?
Mean says, have you watched A Complete Unknown yet? I'm surprised it's taking you so long. One of the best of the year, starting one of your favorite actors and has one of your favorite directors. If you haven't, it will be available on VOD next week. Watch it before the Oscars.
I did finally get caught up on it. I mean, that's just the thing with me. When a new movie comes out, if I don't get to see it opening weekend, then it's kind of then at that point, it becomes no rush for me to see it. And unfortunately, I was traveling when that came out and I didn't get a chance to see it. And you're right. It's got one of my absolute favorite directors, one of my absolute favorite actors. I'm not a big fan of musical biopics, but still, I was very excited to see it. It took me a while, and I love it. I don't think it's the best film of the year, but I thought it was really good. And Timothée Chalamet, every time he's on screen, he just proves again and again. I think he's the one actor alive today who has the potential to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm not saying he is the next I'm saying I don't think there's any other actor alive right now who has the potential to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis. And he's got that potential because he just keeps getting better and better.
If it weren't for Ralph Fiennes this year, I would almost say he would win it for Best Actor. But I think this might
don't
be
forget the guy from Adrian Brody.
That's true.
I
Dang
mean,
it. Forget about it. Keep
he's
forgetting
a
about the
front runner
Brutalist.
for it too, right?
Keep
It's
forgetting about
it's
the
going to be it's going to be a tough competition.
Ralph
this year.
Fiennes still may not have the Oscar.
Yeah, he may not get it. Ralph Fiennes may remain the greatest actor in the world without an Academy Award after this year.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Joe Adonis says, hi, John, Jonathan, and Ray. John, I don't know if you've seen it, but excuse me, Paradise is renewed for season 2.
Oh, nice.
You might be covering this today, yay, but 2 years wait. Oh, it's 2 years?
That's streaming, man. Like, I'm sorry, there's no excuse for it.
You know what this happens? I feel like this happens with season 1 shows on streaming more often because they don't know if it's going to be picked up. So they're like, let's just wait.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, we can't pick it up a year now. Like, now it's got to be
Because
2
everybody's
years.
booked. Everybody's booked.
But then the season 2, now Severance season 3 is going to be quicker than season. You know what I mean?
Much quicker than they've already greenlit season 3. They're going into production in season 3. So yeah, with streaming, that's a big thing, Jonathan, that a lot of these shows don't get past season 1 or 2, right?
Yeah.
So they wait. But the problem is you're waiting to decide if you want to do season 2. Meanwhile, everybody else has to book their next jobs. So sometimes you got to wait for a bit, but it is frustrating. But yet somehow, some way, network TV always managed to find a way to do 20 plus episodes
Funny,
every
isn't
year
it?
on
Funny.
the clock. You know, it played every year. Sopranos.
Yeah.
They managed to put it out every year. That was cinema quality, and they did it every year. The Wire came out every year. Breaking Bad almost came out every year. I mean, almost. But it's so I just don't. Other than the one thing that they are now hesitant to greenlight the next seasons, which causes a scheduling conflict to get the. I get that, but that's the only. Nothing else is an excuse, and I love Paradise so far. All right, what's next?
Tron says, hot take, I don't think Cap 4 will be able to beat Venom 3's box office gross of 479. It's currently tracking at 30 million second weekend, which is about 67% drop. It's also not doing great internationally.
I still think, let me look this up here. Brave New World box office. Okay. So right now, Captain America Brave New World has made $208 million. Q in the live chat is saying 67% ain't bad. Yes, it is. The only time 67% isn't bad is if you had a huge opening weekend.
Which they didn't.
Because if you have a huge opening weekend, that means a lot of people already went out to see it. So there's not a lot of people left over to go see it for the first time in the second weekend. So if you have a huge opening weekend, like $150 million opening weekend or something like that.
Even if you count the 4-day weekend, it wasn't that much. So it doesn't,
Yeah. 67% is not good.
No.
That is not a good. You want to be in that 50 to 60% second. You know what also makes it particularly bad? If it does have a 67% drop, which we don't know. Well, let's wait till Monday. But if, and that's a big if it does have a 67% drop on its second weekend, what makes that extra bad is that it's not against anything.
Nothing. It's a dead 2 weeks until Mickey 17.
Like Monkey opens this weekend.
That's about it.
But Monkey's not going to make $70 million opening weekend and eat up all the box office. So, but again, let's see. Maybe it has like a 61% drop or a 59% drop. We'll see. But if it is 67, it's not only ain't bad, it is definitely bad.
Yeah.
Not the worst. We've seen worse, but it is bad if it takes that much of a dip. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, since the 80s, USA has tried to get Europe to like USA football, but people like the NBA, even in Spain and Italy. If they played games over here, it would be huge. If invested properly, our leagues are amateur, then it would be the second watch sport in Europe. They are investing a lot in Europe, though.
Yeah, they're doing more. They do a lot. The NBA does a lot of events and stuff like that in Europe. Yeah, because right, basketball has become a massive international sport.
It is very important, I think, to book these things internationally.
Yeah.
Now.
All right, what's next?
Dildar says, can't wait for the return of Armie Hammer working alongside one of the world's best directors, Uwe Boll, in the Dark
Knight.
The Dark Knight. That's definitely not a Batman ripoff and definitely not cashing in on when he was almost Batman. It'll be the best movie ever.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, you can't copyright The Dark Knight, right? You could call it whatever, as long as it's not substantively similar to the material you have in your movie, you can call it that. They're common words.
All right.
Warner Brothers has respectfully requested that Uwe Boll change the name of his movie, to which he said no. He's still going to call it that. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the fact that Armie Hammer almost played Batman had anything to do with it, because to be fair, 95% of people out there have no idea that Armie Hammer almost played Batman.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, it would have to be absolute public common knowledge for that to be an issue. And the reality is, you stop the average person on the street. Oh, did you know Armie Hammer almost played Batman? No, nobody knew that. Like, very, very, only people who make shows like this or watch shows like this know that. And that's very few people. But I do think Uwe Boll knows what he's doing by naming it The Dark Knight. And he knew it would get attention. And that's what he wants for his movie, man. He wants attention, and it's working.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right, man. I would have loved to have seen that that movie that never got made. Bry Guy says, Giovanni, I'm still recommending you check out the Azerbaijani food chef Kanan Batalon. Ray, we got to get you on this. His channel is on YouTube, and just recently he made 3-meat colorful burgers, Texas Monster beef ribs, and the stunning spiral steak. P.S. Despicable Me and Dupree.
Probably not. But I mean, listen, I am a sucker when I come across a good food video, but I don't go out of my way to go and hunt them down and look for them. So I probably won't, but I appreciate the recommendation. All right, what's next?
Lord Helmet. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if there's some kind of clause in the deal Amazon made that says creative control of the Bond franchise will revert back to the Broccoli's after a certain amount of time if the content gets made doesn't do well. Not for $1 billion.
Nope.
Not unless they're giving back that money.
Such a clause would never be put into a contract.
Yeah.
Nobody would agree to put that clause into a contract ever. Because what does do well mean?
Yeah.
And nobody will agree to that. Nobody would agree to that. So I can 100% guarantee you. Now, there might be some clause of reversion in it, but it wouldn't have anything to do with the performance of the movies or anything like that. None of that. I can 100% guarantee you that is not in those deals. All right, what's next?
We got Curious Chris. Hi, John. Have you seen Ben Stiller's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
Yeah.
It's one of those.
I really like it.
It's one of those films where I can see why it wouldn't be someone's cup of tea, but it personally speaks to me so profoundly that it can't help but be one of my favorites. I feel like it was mismarketed.
Well,
they leaned heavily in his imagination thing, which was like the first act, and that was it.
Yeah, but it's a difficult film to market.
Yeah.
It definitely is not a film that's for everybody, right? That's not everybody's kind of movie. I personally quite enjoy, and he directed that too, did he not?
Yeah.
I think so.
If you can look, I'm
gonna
pretty
look it
sure
up.
he directed that. I think, and okay, I'm not going crazy, right? That's the one where Sean Penn
Yep,
is
and
in
he's
the
a
end.
photographer.
Yeah, that's okay. So I just want to make sure I was thinking of the right movie.
Yes, he did.
He did
that.
direct it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally, I thought that was a movie. Like a lot of people, when they hear that Ben Stiller is behind Severance, they go, that seems really odd.
Mm-hmm.
But if you watched Walter Mitty,
It
you
makes
could
sense.
see how that's the same mind
Yeah.
that's kind of behind Severance. And one of the reasons why I think Ben Stiller is actually a really underrated director. Anyway, yeah.
I thought it was beautifully shot too.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
Save Legends of Tomorrow says, I can live with the Broccoli family no longer being in control of James Bond. I think naysayers can learn to live with it too, so long as whoever Amazon picks to be the franchise's Kevin Feige is British. Putting a Yank in charge would feel wrong, yes?
No. Storyteller's a storyteller. I don't care where they're from. And by the way, James Bond doesn't need a Kevin Feige. Like, unless they decide to do a full-blown cinematic universe kind of thing.
That'd be, yeah.
You don't need a Kevin Feige for every IP, right? You just need the heads of the studios making good decisions and stuff like that. If it's something where you're getting like a James Bond property every year, like whether it's a Q series or a 003 series or whatever kind of stuff, well, then maybe you want to appoint somebody who's kind of like the caretaker or the shepherd of it. But unless you do that, not every single IP needs a Kevin Feige for it, I don't think. And again, I really don't care if they get a British person to run it or not. I really don't. Any more than I care that they get a British guy to play Superman. It doesn't matter to me. You're telling a story. Are the people involved telling a good story? That's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Gavin says, recently watched the newer Planet of the Apes movies. Just finished Kingdom this morning. I thought they were all pretty enjoyable. My question is, do you think this franchise has much of a future? I don't know how well it did monetarily. I mean, this last one made under 400.
Yeah, and I like the new one.
Yeah.
I don't know that it has much of a future, though. I mean, I think it ran its course. It's great. I'm still not big on War for the Planet of the Apes. I don't think that movie was very good. But
I love the second one.
But I love the second
That was
one.
Matt Reeves.
And that was also, and I love the first one, and I like the most recent one. But all good things come to an end. I think it might have run its course. I think they maybe should move on from it. But who knows? Maybe if they get a great idea, if they do another one, I'll definitely be there to check it out. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Random Campea fan says, would James Gunn be smart to give Snyder a DCU movie to direct? They were spotted at the studio boardroom yesterday. How would Snyder Bros take not getting a restore, but rather joining Gunn's DCU?
They wouldn't take it well. Remember, there's a difference between Snyder fans and Snyder Bros.
Yeah.
Right? Snyder fans are not extremists. The Snyder Bros are extremists. I don't think he'd be smart to have Zack Snyder direct one. But if there is a film that he thinks Snyder would be a particularly good fit for, then why not? Absolutely. But what I don't think James Gunn should do is, I'm going to have Zack Snyder direct a film and then kind of force him into some film that whether he is or is not the right choice. But if James Gunn has a film in mind that he thinks Zack Snyder would be a really good directorial fit for, Why wouldn't you do it? I would think it would absolutely be a good move for him to do it.
I think it's very important that he creates an identity for his DC before even going there.
I agree. Yeah, which we're going to get, right? Because we're going to get Superman first. It's going to establish the identity of the universe, and then they'll go from there. All right, what's next?
T-Man says, in February of 2003, theater companies were sued regarding commercial ads being shown after the given movie start time. Regal Cinemas thus moved to having all ads before the start time and only trailers after the start time. I wish theaters use this model. I wish they do it for trailers too.
Yeah, I find that I don't think I'm wrong in saying that AMC Theaters does something similar. They'll play car ads and makeup ads and whatever ads prior to showtime. And then once showtime hits, then they just play movie trailers. Well, movie trailers and a Nicole Kidman ad and a guy and girl falling in love while drinking Coke products. And another AMC ad, and then a Dolby Cinema ad, and
then here comes the directors.
I mean, if you're in IMAX, but it's still, there is no reality. There is no other area. There is no other product that we as consumers pay for, that we accept, that before I can enjoy the thing I just bought from you, I have to sit here and listen to 30 minutes of ads. There is nothing else in all of consumerism where that's the case. If you went to a store and bought a new pair of Nikes, and then you go to open the box, but it says, this box won't open until you watch our 30-minute timeshare presentation, you would say, fuck you, I paid for these shoes, just give me my fucking shoes.
Scan the QR code to get the other half of your shoes.
Yeah, the other half of the shoe, right? There is no reality where if you paid for Disney Plus, and you paid for the ad-free Max, all that kind of stuff, you pay for Disney Plus, and you sit down to start your show, and it says, before we start this week's episode of Mandalorian, please enjoy the next 30 minutes of previews of upcoming Disney Plus features. You would cancel Disney Plus real frickin' quick. But here's the thing. The movie theaters have slowly manipulated the audience into sheep where we just accept it. Oh, they've made it such a normal part of it for us now. They've made it such a normal part of it now. We just follow along with whatever the movie theater say. Oh, no, it's fine. It's like the thing you're always showing me, Ray, the meme of the guy sitting in the middle of a fire. It's fine.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm. It's fine. But if anybody else in any other area of our consumerism tried to do that to you, you would instantly walk away. Again, I have no problems with ads if you're getting something for free. I don't mind going to like a Deadline website, which I get to open up and read for free, and there being ads around it. Of course, that's how they're supporting themselves, because I'm getting this for free. So that's fine. But when you pay $20, when you pay 20 freaking bucks to go into a movie theater and watch a movie, no. You don't get to then force 25 minutes of ads on me when I paid to be here. Anyway, that's just my thing.
Recently, it's been hitting 30 minutes. I've been
looking
looking at
it
my watch
over
every
30
time.
minutes lately. Yep. All right, what's next?
Matan says Avatar 7 Heavens setting being post-apocalyptic feels to me like they're trying to pull a Force Awakens or having a setting mirror the original work. I kind of wanted the technology and universe to advance to a 90s end of history point.
I'm completely opposite from you. One of the things that actually turned me off of Avatar, especially in the Legend of Korra, was the fact that they started, instead of it feeling like a fantasy world, it started feeling more like a modern contemporary world. I felt like technology in that world advanced 700 years in just like 50 years. And that's one of the things that turned me off of Korra. It wasn't the only thing. I didn't like the storytelling as much in Legend of Korra, and I certainly didn't like the main character as much as I liked Aang. But I mean, if that worked for you, that worked for you. But for me, it was one of the downfalls of the series. All right, what's next?
Raymond says, Jeff Bezos asked people on X who do they want as James Bond, and Henry Cavill fans gave support to your boy. I'm sure everyone is bringing up favorites like Idris Elba and Theo James. It is quite interesting that Bezos posted this. He must be a fan too. Well, they just spent $1 billion. They're trying to engage the fan base.
They just spent $1 billion. They already had the movie rights, but now just to get the creative rights, they spent $1 billion.
Jeez.
I think it was a really good post. I think it was good for him to post that, get people involved and excited right away, make him think that he's listening to them. He's not listening to them.
No.
He doesn't care what you write in there, but it was a good thing to post regardless. Again, I'm okay if they get somebody else other than Henry, because Henry is now in his early 40s. So if you want somebody that could be a little bit more long, like maybe a guy who could be your Bond for the next 20 years, maybe, I get it. But Henry is still my guy. I mean, he was the runner-up to play James Bond behind Daniel Craig. He lost out the role to Daniel Craig. And if you need any convincing of how good he would be as James Bond, well, not just watch him in his Mission Impossible movie, but go watch The Man from U.N.C.L.E. that he did with the aforementioned Armie Hammer. He was, so good in that. Yeah, Henry Cavill still has my vote. So we'll see what happens. All right, what's next?
Clayton says, over under 50, the first steps in Fantastic Four not only refer to a spacewalk, but to the first steps of a child, possibly Franklin or Valeria Richards.
Nah, I don't think they're going to... Remember, Franklin Richards doesn't show up for a number of decades after the Fantastic Four got going. I don't see them rushing Franklin Richards into it. I mean, it could very well. The Fantastic Four could end with the birth of Franklin Richards or his sister. Totally could. But I think that would be really rushing that for no reason when we haven't even had just the Fantastic Four yet. So I think that's something Feige might keep in his pocket. We'll see, though. All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher says, I just learned that in 1964, England had a real spy in Poland named James Albert Bond. The fictional James' middle name has never been stated. I'm now headcanoning that fictional James' middle name is Albert.
That would be funny. You know, it's funny. A lot of people still didn't read that. Speaking of Henry Cavill, his recent movie, Ungentlemanly, what was it called again?
Ministry of
Ungentlemanly Warfare, is based on the guy who created James Bond.
Ian Fleming. Yeah. Yeah, Ian Fleming has
It's all connected.
All of it.
Guys, if you want some good biographical reads, check out some stuff on Ian Fleming. He had a very interesting life.
All right, what's next?
Roland Rodriguez says, hey, John and crew, do you guys think these past Marvel movies, even other studio films, in terms of visual effects, were caused by the Chapek stuff? I'm still baffled. Earlier Marvel films look amazing and the newer ones look meh. Hope they improve.
Two things. I disagree. I think the problem is that we've become spoiled. And I say this as somebody who used to work in visual effects. I think we as an audience have become spoiled with how good visual effects look now. And our expectations have raised a lot. Because I go back, like, I still think the original Avengers movie, the first one that Joss Whedon directed, I still to this day think that is the best comic book movie ever. I really do. And at the time, it was mind-boggling, visual effects-wise, how good it looked. I go back and watch it again about a month ago, and it's still, to me, the best comic book movie ever made. But, you know, some of the visual effects are a little bit of the age. Yeah. So I think part of it is just that our expectations have been much higher. The bigger thing, though, was, and this was a big problem with the visual effects industry as a whole, the visual effects industry was getting buried. Under demand.
Yeah.
Every visual effects house was bursting at the seams, hardly being able to keep up. The pipelines were just overcrowded with how much work there was to do. And I think if you're going to notice anything, I think a lot of it comes from that. Who the CEO of Disney was had no impact on how good or bad the visual effects in the movie were.
Right.
I mean, listen, I think Bob Chapek is responsible for a lot of stuff, but I don't think that's one of them. I think there was a rather an industry-wide kind of problem that they were dealing with. All right, what's next?
Sam Rogers says if if Chris Pratt is Booster Gold and Kumail Nanjiani is voicing Skeets, how would that work if Star-Lord is also back in the MCU? Could DC and Marvel really share actors for movies at the same time? I don't know. I mean, Star-Lord in Jurassic Park was kind of weird, right?
I was going to say, like, you had Star-Lord, but wait a minute. That's the guy from the Jurassic Park. Wait, what's happening? Actors are in different things all the time. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Remember, we had Lawrence Fishburne in the MCU and in DC at the same time. There's no, guys, seriously, there is absolutely no difference between that and Chris Pratt being in the MCU playing Star-Lord and being a Velociraptor trainer in Jurassic World. It's no different. They're two different sets of movies. They're two different movie universes. They're not the same. There's absolutely no issue. There's no issue at all. Like, you want to make sure you avoid things looking gimmicky.
Right.
You do want to make sure that, like, you're going to, like, if I'm a DC guy and I'm about to put Chris Pratt in a DC movie, I want to make sure, just to avoid the gimmickiness of it, that I would have him playing a character that's quite different from Peter Quill. But you can have him play anything you want. It's actors are in different things all the time.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Cena from Vans. His thoughts and opinions can change over time, but how would you rank these movies now? Black Widow.
I don't do rankings, just so you know, but go ahead.
Black Widow, Iron Man 2, Thor Dark World, Cap Brave New World, or The Marvels. Easy win from Team Canada yesterday. I don't know if that was easy.
Well, yeah, keep that up for a second as I look at it. I would say
I give Thor Dark World more and more credit as I've watched it over the years.
To me, it's still the worst one on that list. I would say this. Worst one is Thor Dark World.
Mm-hmm.
Second worst one is Iron Man 2. Third worst one is Captain America Brave New World. Then Black Widow. And then I think Marvel's is the best of those films on that list.
Yeah.
So that I mean, just off the top of my head, that's how I would do it.
Dark World's a little higher on that list for me, but it's about the same.
All right, what's next?
Zelda Masters, congrats to Team Canada. I guess you get to remain the country. In all honesty, though, great game, and the other leagues should take a page from NHL on how to do a good All-Star celebration. I like that it was like a mini World Cup.
Yeah.
I think they should expand it.
Well, the problem with expanding it, though, is
Too much time.
it's how long it would take.
Yeah.
I mean, it would take a long time. Here's the thing. I remember I was watching one of my favorite sports guys, Rich Eisen. I watch all the sports guys, but one of my favorite ones is Rich Eisen. If any of you know Rich Eisen, let him know I said that. He's one of my favorite guys. But they did a segment on the Rich Eisen show where they're talking about how, like, look at the NBA All-Star game. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. You got these rich, spoiled guys out there who don't care. They don't care that people in the stands paid $1,500 a ticket to be there. They don't care. They're not even trying. They're not putting anything on the line. They really don't care. They're all complaining, oh, well, we'd rather just have the week off. But then Rich Eisen said, Rich Eisen, who, by the way, is a massive basketball fanatic. But then Rich Eisen says, look at what they're doing in the NHL, man. Like, hockey isn't about fighting. But you had that first Canada-US game. Within the first 9 seconds, there were 3 fights. He goes, it's not about the fights, he said. These guys care. Hockey players care. And when they put on the jersey, they believe in it. And they are going to give every ounce of their effort, blood, sweat, and tears. Especially when you're wearing your country's jersey. Especially then. But like, you watch that and it became like, there were some people, I watched guys on ESPN the other day who were saying, is this bigger than the Stanley Cup is going to be this year? Because you had excellent hockey being played by guys who gave it their all because it mattered. Every other All-Star game, baseball, football. I mean, football, they made flag football, which actually I thought was a good move. It makes it a little more entertaining. And NBA, it's pointless. Nobody cares because the players don't care. Fans want to see players that care, and it matters to them. And you know what I loved? And don't misinterpret me, okay? Don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. After Canada scored the winning goal in overtime, and the camera went over to the USA bench, and those guys all looked depressed. They looked sad and depressed and in anguish. And I said, I love that. Not because Americans are sad. I love that those guys on that bench cared so much. Those American players, they put it all out there. They left everything on the ice. They cared so passionately that losing this, they didn't just go, whatever, this didn't matter. No. They looked thoroughly defeated and depressed and sad. And to me, that says they cared. They were passionate about this. And my respect level, I mean, I was already super respected the American team because of how well they played. But my respect for all those players on that American bench went so high because they clearly cared. No other sport has it like hockey does. Every other sport is a bunch of rich millionaire crybabies. NHL, these are guys who are passionate about their sport, and I loved that. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Zarian the Barbarian. Hey, John, in Multiverse of Madness, Wanda's actions impact an alternate version of herself when she kills the Illuminati. Could we see this alternate Wanda dealing with the consequences, leading to a new storyline in future Avengers films?
Nah, I don't think so.
To me, I feel like she's still in WandaVision. She's still in that because she had her kids. I feel like she might have still been in her little realm.
Well, there's another realities version, but
That's true.
Theoretically, this is why multiverse is so stupid. But theoretically, there's 10,000 other Wandas out there, right? There's 10,000 other Star-Lords. There's 10,000 other Steve Rogers. There's 10,000 other Thors. That's why multiverse is so stupid and so bad, and they need to move on past it as quickly as they can. But I mean, they may say the 616s, the sacred timelines, Wanda, they might say she's still alive. Like Agatha all along certainly didn't do anything to make it definitive.
I know, right?
Because remember, like he asks Agatha, is Wanda dead? Yes. No, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Remember she said that? And I'm like, okay. So they still might bring her back. And if she does, yeah, there are going to have to be consequences for her actions in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of and her consequences for her actions in WandaVision.
Yep.
Wanda broke bad. And I thought it was one of the greatest story arcs in the history of the MCU. I think her story arc and Tony Stark's story arcs are the two best individual character story arcs that the MCU ever did. I thought it was wonderful. All right, what's next?
Here's our last tip. Jay says, greetings. Recently returned to watching Better Call Saul after giving up on it. And wow, I think it's better than Breaking Bad. The final season is great. The performance from Odenkirk and Michael Mando made me cry. What were your thoughts on it?
I was very like I watched like the first couple of seasons of Better Call Saul, and then I just kind of fell off of it. I didn't decide to stop watching. I just realized like I just never got around to watching it. And then a few months ago, I finally started watching it again. I don't think I'm in the camp that thinks is as good or better than Breaking Bad, but it was really good. It was really good. Bob Odenkirk is freaking money. I cannot wait for Nobody 2.
Me too.
I'm so happy. I'm confounded that they decided to make another Nobody movie because that movie made no money.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy they're making a Nobody 2, and I can't wait to see him in it. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday. I hope you guys have an amazing, awesome weekend lined up, whether it be filled with a lot of fun things to do, or maybe just a laid back, relaxing break that you need for a couple of days. Whatever it is you need, I hope you get it. I want to thank the guys in the room with me, Ray Ora.
Hey, see you guys next week.
Jonathan Voico.
See you guys.
Thanks a lot for being here, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.